Hello and welcome. My name is Carolyn Shaw and I'm a product manager with Avalara. I work on API and developer experience. And over the past few years, I've got to see some of the challenges that developers have when they're building integrations. And that's why I'm very excited today to be able to show you Avalara Studio. For this session, we're going to look at why we built Studio, and we're going to look at the benefits to customers and partners that it brings. Then we'll have a quick primer on how it works. And finally, we'll get to see it in action with a demo from my colleague, Vishal Shetty. Avalara Studio is a new low-code product designed to create integrations quickly and simply, and also to make it easy to enhance integrations. Every part of the design of Avalara Studio is organized around making it simple, contextual, and automated. We know that building integrations in the traditional way against the APIs using just the documentation can be very time-consuming. And indeed, this type of integration typically takes months. Because of the low-code tools in Avalara Studio, now we should be able to integrate within days. We have push-button deployment, hosting by Avalara, which all makes it easy to manage over time as well. And also, if your needs change, for example, your business is growing, compliance regulations are changing, then it's very easy to add on with Studio, to add on more Avalara services, much simpler than with a traditional integration. So if we look at traditional integrations and how they work, it's very clear to see how Avalara Studio really changes things. There's basically two ways to integrate today. You can integrate your application with Avalara's APIs directly within your application, or you can create a reusable application, reusable integration outside of your application. In either case, you are hitting the Avalara APIs, making calls to them for the compliance functionality. And at the same time, we're continually gathering updated compliance content from regulatory agencies so that we can take the burden off you for keeping up with all of that information. But now there's an even better way to integrate with Avalara Studio. So with an integration in Avalara Studio, you're basically building the business logic, bringing in data from your system, and then really orchestrating the interaction between your business logic and Avalara's APIs there in Studio. And you'll see also that it's hosted by Avalara. So we've compared Avalara Studio with traditional integrations. And at this point, you may be wondering, what does it take to do an integration with Avalara Studio? What's actually involved? So let's look at an example. Opa Software Solutions is a fictional company. They have a product with global customers, and they're looking to help their customers stay compliant with local laws and regulations. Opa Software Solutions have experienced a lot of growth over the past few years, and they're implementing AvaTax to meet their needs to calculate local taxes, including VAT in Europe. They've also heard about the legislation that's coming in Europe for digital invoices, and they're interested in that too. So knowing that Avalara is a market leader in indirect tax, they want to take all the solutions from Avalara to solve this problem. And so the next thing that they would do, so to actually implement something for European transactions, you would need to essentially calculate VAT and any other applicable taxes. Then you would have to generate invoices in the format required. You would then have to transmit those as e-invoices. And finally, you'd have to report them to tax administrations in countries where that's required. So in order to build such an integration, OPA software solutions would only need to work with 3 things in Studio: adapters, apps, and workflows. Adapters are a way of connecting your business application to Avalara's services. In an adapter, you can configure authentication methods, and you can add custom code or methods to execute business logic through the workflow as part of your integration. For OPA software solutions, they would have a choice whether to create their own adapters, or they may choose to use Avalara's pre-built adapters for tax calculation and e-invoicing. Apps are a collection of workflows which are grouped together logically. OPA solutions would create one app that would represent their integration, and so that would be pretty easy. Workflows allow you to automate a business process, essentially. And in Avalara Studio, the workflows really can be reused across different apps once you've built them. They can connect, a single workflow could connect to multiple adapters. So OPA software solutions would have the choice whether they might want to build one workflow to represent all their business processes, or they could choose to build multiple workflows. So for example, one for the tax calculation portion and one for the e-invoicing portion of the integration. Now that you've seen what the building blocks of Avalara Studio are, it's time to put the pieces together. So at this point, Vishal's going to do a demonstration of how you'd build this type of integration in Avalara Studio. Over to you, Vishal.
My name is Vishal. I'm a senior technical lead with the connector engineering team. And today I'm going to demo you the D1 Studio platform. So welcome. This is the landing page that you see once you log into the platform. Now, as you all know, you can build Avalara integrations using our APIs. We are going to show you a different way where it is much easier and flexible to build integrations. So as soon as you log in, this is the landing page. And on your left, you'll have your adapters and apps. Now consider that I am a developer for OPA software services, and I need to connect and I need to create integrations within Studio. So for that, I'll need an adapter first. So let's go ahead and click on this adapter page. So I already have a pre-built adapter created. And if I want to create a new adapter, I'll click on this new create new adapter. But for now, let's go inside this OPA adapter that we have created. So this is the basic adapter information that you'll see once you are going to create a new adapter. We have the adapter name, the adapter version. And since I have a background in Node.js, so as a developer, I'll choose my runtime as Node.js. So it means that all my executions, my custom code will be executed on Node.js environment. Currently, Studio also supports C#. So these two platforms, languages will be supported by Studio. I can choose a logo if required, and I'll select some labels. I would say this is for AvaTax calculation, and I'll add some description. So I'll save and continue. Once I do that, it will take me to the authentication screen. Now for my adapter, I want to authenticate using OAuth 2.0. There are other authentication methods that are available. So we have basic auth, API key, and bearer token. Since I've selected OAuth 2, it will ask me for some user instructions and as well as for some user inputs, which I can add. For now, I have added a shop
as a user input. I can also configure some setup fields with client ID and client secrets, add some scopes, and then the OAuth endpoints as well I can configure, which will have the authorized URL and the token URL. Once I've done this, I'll save and continue. So now for my OPA adapter, I do not require an assertion rule. Now an assertion rule is an additional security that Studio provides. So we have two different types of assertion rules that are available. We have API key as well as HMAC. If you select any one of them, there are configurations that you will have to do. But in our case, for OPA adapter, we can just skip this part. Okay. This is where the custom code and the custom logic you're going to write. So for my adapter, I have already written 3 methods for get order by ID, prepare order ID, and get shop address. So these are the methods that I'll require for my integration. If I need to add a new method, all I have to do is add new method. It will ask me what type of method you want to add. Currently, command, query, and private is what we are supporting. So it is post, get, and an internal method that you can use. I can add a key, say, let's keep it as new method. I will say this is a demo method and add some description. That's it. Then there are a bunch of other fields that I need to add. I can add some input parameters for this adapter method. The input schema is the is what we define what is required for this adapter method. We can define a JSON body here. For now, I don't need an input schema. And similarly, this is where I will write the custom code. So this is the Node.js executor. So you can add your Node.js code over here. This is the default code that you see. You can add some custom logic over here, and this will be executed. Similarly, we have the output schema. So what we are saying is this output schema will define what is the response going to be. This is the JSON body. You can define this. This will be helpful when you're designing your flow. So it will have some data, and this is how the data is going to be returned. There is also an option where you can test the method. Now let's go to an already built adapter that we have, and let's test this method. Okay, so I've already connected. I'm already authenticated for this particular adapter. Let me just test this method. So as you can see, it gave me an order response. The output schema is similar to what I have defined over here. Similarly, the input schema is blank because I don't need anything, but you can add a few input schema as well. Now, this is a manual process that we have done. Now, suppose there is a Swagger JSON that's available for you, and you want to import multiple adapter methods with a click of a button. So we have this new functionality where you can import a Swagger JSON. So this is the base URL that we have for the Avalara APIs. This is the Swagger JSON that we have. And when I click on get methods, in the background, what it does is it will go to the base URL. It will get the Swagger JSON, and it will collect all the APIs that are available in the Swagger JSON file. So give it a minute. It should load the methods that are available. So in the background, okay, there you have it. So we have all these methods all these APIs that are generated from this, from the backend. And we can add, multiple adapter methods over here. So I'll select a few for transactions as well. And I'll say, generate this method. As soon as I do that, earlier there were 3 methods, and this got added by a click of one button. So this is as simple as clicking a button. If you have a Swagger JSON ready, it will have all your input parameters, your input schema if there, some code, as well as some output schema. So this way you can import all your adapter methods if you have a Swagger JSON available. I'll save this. Once I save this, it should go to my adapter summary page. Now this is the adapter summary page where it will show me all the information about my adapter on a single page. I have the basic details, the authentication that I have selected, OAuth 2.0, all the setup and input fields, and then a single file with all my adapter code. Once I've done this, I'll submit this for review.
Now, this will be reviewed by the Avalara internal team for compliance and security. And once reviewed, everything looks good, it will be available for publish. And once it is published, it should now be available for your use within apps and workflows. So that's it. So that's the adapter part. Now moving on to the apps part. So this is the apps landing page. We have a summary that you can see for all the apps that are published or approved with the status. You can create a new app and it will have simple app name, app version, and description. Let me create a demo app. It will keep app version, some description, some user instructions if required. I'll save this. As soon as I do that, it will give me an option to create workflows, right? Let me create a workflow here. I'll say demo workflow. This is not a subflow. This is a mandatory flow for me to use. And type of workflow, stateless and stateful. So stateless will use for better performance. Stateful is for longer running ones. So I'll add some description and I'll save and continue. So once I do that, it gave me the setup trigger page. Now, what is a trigger? So this is the endpoint that I'm going to configure as an OPA developer in my environment, right? And I need to set up some triggers for my workflow to be executed. So there are 3 different types of triggers that are available. So we have webhooks for asynchronous request. We have web request for synchronous request, and we have scheduled trigger. So these schedule trigger will execute your workflow in a timely manner. So let's go with the webhook. Now, this is the endpoint that is auto-generated, and I need to add this in my OPA environment. So let me set up the trigger. So this is the payload configuration. So what I'm saying is when this URL is hit, when this endpoint is hit, this is the payload that you should expect from me. I can have a topic. This is a JSON. You can add some JSON values, some topic value. And I can also add some headers and query parameters. And let's say this is a token and it will have some value. Now I've configured my payload configuration, and then I can add my trigger condition. So what I'm saying is when my URL endpoint is hit, and if it has a body and a key with topic, and if it is equal to some value, or topic name, please execute my workflow. That is what it says. I can add some additional conditions as well. So when the header has a token, and if it equals value, please execute this. I'll select some user identifier to identify which user is making this request. Set it to token. I'll save and continue. These are the workflow input fields that are required during onboarding. I can add a test workflow field, or let's say for OPA, I will say OPA code or something. And the key is OPA code. I'll save and continue. So now I've created my demo app and I've created my workflow, as simple as that. And now I'll go to the editor. Now this is the custom editor that we have created. This is the default nodes that you will see. We have start and finish, but we do not see any adapters. So to choose an adapter, you have to select this choose more adapters, and it will load you all the adapters that we have. So we have just created that OPA adapter. So let me search. So we have this OPA adapter. I'll just select this, save. As soon as I do that, all my adapter methods will be available here for me to use. So I can do that. I can just drag, drop. I can complete this flow, and that's it. Now, to add some logic, we have also provided some control steps. We have transform, aggregate, and cache in, cache out, for loop, handle error. You can similarly drag these and sort of complete your flow and just save and publish this. So this is how you can design a workflow. Now, for the sake of time, I've already created a workflow. Let me go over here. Okay, so this is a calculate advanced tax workflow. So what I've done is I have used the adapter that we had earlier, the OPA adapter. I have get order by ID, get shop address and everything. And then I have used an aggregate function. The aggregate function, what it does is it aggregates my top methods into one, and I can use it in a transform. For transform is used for data mapping. So I have mapped the aggregate function with my create and adjust transaction. Now, as an OPA developer, I need to calculate my VAT tax. So that's the reason I've used create or adjust transaction node that is available in my AvaTax adapter. So let me just test this. I have a payload that I'll execute now to test this. Now, so Studio Platform allows you to test your workflow within the Studio Platform. So you don't have to publish this. You can check your um, flow within the Studio and make any changes that you require. As you saw, it created some adjust transaction. It executed all these data, and it gave me the data back. Now, I suppose I need to add e-invoicing functionality as well. So Avalara does provide the ELR e-invoicing functionality. So to do that, I'll use the ELR invoice adapter that we have. Right now, we are supporting PEPL as well as few non-PEPL countries. So we have different adapter methods that we can use. And all I have to do is for submitting an Italy non-PEPL invoice, I can just drag drop this and add a transform in between. So let me do that. Okay, let me just go back and come back here. Okay. So I have a subflow that I've created here. Okay, so this has the submit invoice and the check invoice as well. I'll move this to the top. So I've already calculated my VAT tax. And now I want to do an e-invoicing. Just save this. I'll publish. So it has published this. I click on connect. So this takes me to the user onboarding page where for each of the user, I need to do the authentication. So all the adapters that I've used from different sources, I'll need to do the authentication for all of them. Okay. So as you can see, I have used the OPA adapter for my company. I have the AvaTax for VAT calculation, and I also have the ELR invoice. So I've already authenticated myself. That's the reason it's showing as connected. I'll just save setting. And now I'll use the same payload to test. So what it does is it will calculate the VAT tax, and then the invoice that is generated, it will submit to the ELR e-invoice. So this is the tax that is that is calculated for VAT. And over here, so it has created this e-invoice. So 48954. Now I have the ELR monitor here. So I'll just refresh my data. Okay, so this was the one that got created. And that's how we can push the ELR e-invoicing from Studio. So consider Studio as a cloud-based SDK that will help you in creating these integrations. So that's the end of my demo. Over to you now, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal. So to summarize what we've seen, Avalara Studio takes away most of the effort of building an integration so that you can complete your integration in days. It's easier to build because of the low-code tools that Vishal has shown you. There's less lines of code. There's also less effort to test, approve, certify, and deploy your integration. It's also easy to manage because Avalara will host it for you. So the last point is that it's easy to enhance your integration. And that means that you can add on products and services easily in the way that Vishal's shown you over time when your compliance needs change. With that, we'll wrap up. Avalara Studio is not yet generally available, but if you're interested in early access, you can contact us on our developer site. On behalf of Vishal and I, it's been a pleasure to share Avalara Studio with you. If you do have questions about it, please put them in the chat and we'll answer them. Thank you for attending today. We appreciate it, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the next conference.